Hi, I'm Angie Shelby, the owner of The Mindful Mane, and today you're going to be learning the pie section haircut. Just like before, we're not going to be worried about the length. We're only going to be worried about the layers and the sections. My mannequin has already been prepped. She is washed, conditioned, and her ends are trimmed. The pie section haircut I use for a lot of different things, for my shags, for that kind of very heavily layered look around the face. It's more elongated than our halo haircut. If you remember, our halo haircut adds width. This one's going to elongate more. It's not going to add so much width. Again, we're going to go over just the basic placement, and then later on in your training, you'll see how we can utilize this sectioning to do a variety of haircuts. The sections that I'm going to take on this mannequin are straight through the center, and then we're going to take our quadrant sections. So just starting at the top and going right behind the ear. And then the same thing on this side from the top and right behind the ear. So now you should have 3 sections. You should have your side on both sides and then your back section. From here, we're going to start in the back. And I'm going to brush all of this back. Now, if you feel like you need to, we can get clips and section off this front bit so it doesn't move, so that we don't accidentally pick it up like that. Just like that. So the reason that this haircut is called the pie section haircut is because if you were looking at it from above down, it's like you're cutting out slices of a pie. So the first thing we're going to do is start from the top, and we're going to take a small triangle section right down the center. Yeah. So you have one pie piece right here in the center, like this. Now again, while you're learning, if you want to take sections and clip it out, you can. We'll do this for the sake of learning today. So you're going to take that pie section, and we're going to pull out a section right inside our pie piece. So we've got our first section right inside the pie piece, just about this much. Not, you're not trying to take up the whole thing. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to determine the length of our layers by deciding where we want the top piece to land down here. So I think I'm going to take off a couple inches. So I'm just going to hold that up. I'm going to slice right across and take off that little bit. Now, we're not going to drop this section yet. So pie haircut, it kind of moves. I kind of think of it like a clock. Right now, we're at 12 o'clock, and we're going to kind of go walk this section out to, you're like at 12, 12:05, 12:10, so on and so on. So we are first right up, straight across. Now we're going to come out this way. So now our section is right where both sides live. And we're going to cut that off. And now I'm ready to part this section in half and drop it over. And we're going to pick up about another inch section from the bottom, still within our pie piece. Then we're going to hold that out. Now our guide is here. I'm going to cut that off. Again, I'm going to take a little bit. I'm going to pull that over so I don't cut anymore. We're going to go right to the occipital bone, and we're going to hold this straight out. My guide is right there. We're going to cut that off. And I'm not going to go into this because this is our length and I don't want to touch that. So just to go over that again, the first thing you do is hold everything straight up. Then you'll walk it out to about 12.05. Then we're going to split that in half. We're going to grab some from the bottom section. Now we're going to go out to about 12.10 or so. Split that. Pick up more from the bottom. We're about right at that occipital bone. Now we're going right out to about 12.15. I got a little more I could take off right there. And now we're done with that section. We're just done with this section. And now I'm going to take off one clip on this right-hand side, and I'm just going to clip it in her hair to hang on to it. I'm going to take a tiny little sliver from my first section, and we'll get another clip. Now we'll move that first section out of the way. So we've taken a little sliver from our first section. Now we're going to make another pie piece. So you're basically cutting your next section in half. We're going to pull this out of our way. We've got our clip already in our hair. We're just going to clip that straight up. And so now we're in our next pie piece. We've just moved over a little bit. So now we're going to do the same thing, just like we did before, but now we have a guide built in from our previous section. It's also important to remember that your hair stays in the section that you're working in. You don't start over directing forward or back. We're kind of working like this, almost like a clock. We're kind of going through those pieces of pie. So we're going to hold everything up again. Now this time I have a guide. I can see where I first started. We're going to cut that off. We're going to go out to about 12.05. Now I've got that little bit left. We're going to split our hair in half, drop some down, pick up some from underneath. Now we're going to about 12.10 or so. There's my guide. We're going to cut that off. Split the hair in half. Now we're going to pick up our last piece. We don't want to get into this stuff below the occipital bone because this is our length. So we're just going to hang on to that for now. We're going to go straight out at like 12.15. We're going to cut off that. And now we're done with that section. Just like we did before, we're going to take a sliver of that section we just did. We're going to take all of this hair that we don't need, and we're just going to tuck it in our clip right here out of our way. Unclip your next section. And now you should have just one pie piece left. Right here, we've just got one more section left behind the ear. We're still working in the back. We want to be mindful of this section right here behind the ear because that's where we can get holes. So we're just going to think about that. Another thing to keep in mind while you're doing this haircut is you want to be standing on the side of your client so that when you're holding your hair up, let's get back. You're holding your hair up. I am cutting my guide here and I'm cutting out this way. If I were standing over here, you see, if I were standing on this side and my guide was here, I would have to be cutting to my guide this way. But we don't want to do that. We want to stand on this side. We're going to pull straight up. I see my guide. And we're going to start here and cut out towards it, out away from it. Keeping your tension tight. Now we're going to walk it out about 12:05. We're going to come up that little last bit, split it in half, grab some from underneath. Nice tight tension, slide that up to about 12:10. Cut that off. Slice it in half, grab your last bit. Now remember, this is where we could get a little bit of a hole in here because we're kind of entering that pocket of behind the ear where there's no hair. So we can over direct up just a little bit. So instead of going straight out to 12:15, you can come up just a couple ticks just to play it safe. So now we're done with that side. So we've started in the center and we've moved towards the right behind her head. Now we're going to take that down and we still have everything in the back that's on the left side of that section. Should just be 2 sections. So in total, you'll end up having had 5 sections. You'll have 1 in the center and 2 on each side. We've done the 1 in the center and we've done the 2 on the right. Now we're going to come back to the center. We're going to take a tiny little slice off of that left-hand side so that we have a guide. And we're going to brush this all of our out of our way. And clip that up. Make sure you can see. We're going to unclip our section here from behind the ear. I want to hang on to this clip, so I'm just going to put it at the top. So we've already taken our 1 little sliver from the other side. We've already taken our 1 little sliver that was on this side. So now we're basically just going to cut this section in half. And we're just going to twirl that out of the way. And we're going to clip that out of the way. So now you have this pie piece here. Should look like this. A nice piece of pie. So you're actually going to stand on the same side that you were before. We're not going to move our body positioning. We're going to take that little bit. Actually, let's wet her down just a little. We're going to take this section. We're going to hold it straight up. There's my guide. Now we're going to take it, we're going to go out to about 12:05. There's my guide. Cut it in half. Pick up some from underneath. Slide that out nice and tight. I'll show you the angle, nice and tight. About 12:10 on the clock. Cut that in half. Grab from underneath. I'm going to slide out to about 12:15. We're going to cut that off. That section's done. So we're going to take a little sliver. And then we're just going to take this hair. I'm going to show you this. So this is the hair that I want to hide to get rid of. I've already got it all. I'm going to grab it. My clip that's on the other side, I'm just going to fold it right there so that it stays. All right, now we can take this section down. We're on our last section in the back. Going to go straight up. Now remember to not over direct the hair forward or backwards, left or right. First, we're going straight up. I see my guide, cut that off. Slide it out straight to about 12:05. Drop it in half. Pick up some from underneath. Now we are at that sketchy area above the ear. So I'm going to keep that in mind. Going to about 12:10. Split that in half, pick up a little bit more. Now, normally I would go out to 12, 15, but we're going to go a couple ticks up above that just to save some length. And you are done with the back section. So now that you're done with the back section, we're going to take a tiny sliver of our back. We're going to push that towards the front. I'm just going to put it right here in this clip. And we're going to do the same thing on this side because this is going to act as our guide for the other side. Just put that right there. And now if you want, so you don't accidentally pick anything up, we can take all this hair in the back and we can clip it out of our way because we've already done that. So we don't need to worry about it. So now I'm going to take the clips off of both sides, this side and this side. Now I'm going to brush this all in her face. And yes, I do that to my clients too. I'll say, I'm just going to brush this in your face really quick. So I pull it all forward. Okay, so we're going to go assuming she flip-flops her part or she parts in the center. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take a pie section in the top. So here's the back section of her hair going back. We're going to get our pie piece right here. This is going across either side of her part. So if she's parting in the center, we're right on either side of her part. And then we're going to do the same thing on this side. And then we can get this out of the way. Just like that. So now you have this pie piece in the front. We're basically going to be doing the same thing. We're going to grab a small section. Oh, and let me, before I forget, what I'll tell people about this section here is you're basically making it kind of like right in between the eyes. She's got a small little face, so it's a little bit over, but it should be like, you know, that section should end kind of like right in the middle of your nose. I'm going to take this section. And we're going to pull it straight up just like what we did before. Now I have a guide from the back right here. We're going to pull all this up. And we're going to cut off all of that. Now we're going to grab the middle, the rest of our section. If you're wanting to preserve length in the front, we're just going to hold it all straight up because the head dips right here. So like this, that would be straight out from where the head lives because the forehead dips. But we're going to preserve some length. So we're just going to hold everything straight up. There's my guide. I think I even cut a little bit at an angle by accident. You can see that. We're just going to square that. You can do that, but just for the purpose of this video, we're not going to. So now I'm going to take this section and I'm going to tuck it right here. And we're going to move to the left side. It doesn't matter which side you go to. I'm just going to go to the left. We're going to take out that clip. And then this little section is going to be your tiniest section. It should go from here to just kind of like that receding area, like right here. It's a teeny tiny little sliver. I'm going to pull this up and bring her closer so you can see. It's a tiny, tiny little section, tiny little piece of pie. So we're still working in triangles. This one's just really small. I'm going to be preserving length all around her face. I can go back and cut that later. So again, we're going to actually with this section, because this side of the head really dips more than up here, like we start to round right there, What I'm going to do, I'm going to get this so you can see, is to hold this from where the hair lives. Isn't straight up. We're actually going to hold this where the hair lives. So I'm going to come out just a little bit. So our first section in the center was straight up like this. So I could preserve length in the front where her fringe is. Now I'm not so worried about that because I want to have some face framing. So I'm going to hold it straight out where it lives on both sides. And, oops. We're going to cut that off. And I'm going to pull that over right there. So now we're on the last section right here. So it's this whole bit right here. What I like to do is I like to drop out above the ear so that I don't cut into my perimeter. And again, I'm going to take this whole section up and I'm going to cut it from where it lives on her head because I want those layers. And if I hold everything straight up, I'm not going to get a lot of layering. So I'm going to hold it straight out to where it lives. So this is straight and this is straight. And we're going to cut that off. All right, now we're going to do the other side, which we only have 2 sections. So it's the same as in the back. You should have 5 sections, 1 in the center and 2 on each side. She's drying out fast. So now we're going to take down this section. And now we're going with our teeny tiny section that's just kind of like this, from this point to like right there. No, I'm not explaining it well. I just don't want you to go down into her temple. Like you want to stay right up before the head rounds. So we're going to hold this section straight out where it lives. We're not going to over direct. So if I were to do that, that would be right here. So that's straight and that is straight because I want those layers. We're going to cut that off. And we're going to pull this away from her. Now we're down to our last section of the haircut. And I'm going to take this above the ear to save her length. I'm going to take all of this in my last section. And just like before, let me get her so you can see. We're holding it straight out from where the hair grows. So here, here. And we're going to cut that off. All right, so now you're done with the foundation of the haircut. We're just going to wet her down a little bit because we're going to give her a little bit of face framing. So I'm going to just keep this hair that's clipped back. I'm going to keep that clipped back. So we're going to brush all this in front of her face. And I'm going to find that center part. It's a little off. I'm going to find that center part. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a teeny tiny triangle on either side of her part. And when I say teeny tiny, I mean teeny tiny. Like teeny tiny. Tiny little triangle on either side of her part. And now we're going to determine where we want that face framing to stop. I think it's going to have to stop. I kind of want it to stop below. I don't want to take too much length off this mannequin. So we're just going to kind of start down here. So what we're going to do to make this really soft, we're going to pull this out tight. And I know I want it to be about there. So I know I'm going to start here. I'm going to hold it out just a little bit. And what I'm going to do with my scissors is I'm opening and closing, but I'm not going to close all the way. I'm really just doing like this. And as I close my scissors, I'm going to move forward in the hair. Back a little bit, forward in the hair, forward in the hair. This is how I slide cut, like this. I'm not closing my scissors all the way. Open, close and slide, close. And I kind of go back a little bit. It's just going to give a really soft look here in the front. Now, when I keep creating her front pieces, I'm going to build on this triangle. So now I'm going to take a little bit on this side and a little bit on that side. So now our triangle is bigger. And I want to make sure that her hair is pretty damp. And now I'm going to cut this section in half so I can work with a little bit at a time. We're just going to drop that to the side. And what I'm going to do is now I'm going to take this section and I'm going to cross it over her face so that it goes from short to long when she wears it straight down. But I'm going to do that same technique of opening and closing my shears as I slide down. So we have our guide in there. Where is it? Right, there's our guide right there. So I'm pulling everything across her face. So when you do both sides, you're basically going to be making an X like this. This one's on this side. There she is. So we've got it across her face. I'm going to have to come on this side. Her guide is right there. Can you see? There we go. And we're going to close, push, open, close, push, open, close, push, open, push, 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 push. Now I've done this side. Just makes it nice and soft and tapered. Now we're going to do the other side. So this side crosses this way. We can already see her guide falling out. Cross. I can see my guide right here. Close, push, slide, close, push, open, slide back, close, push, open, slide back, until you just kind of carve it off, really. So I don't want to do too much more, but I am, whoops. I do want to make sure it's connected. So now I'm going to pull it all forward. I can see where my last bit stops. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just connecting those edges. And I'm just literally point cutting to connect that angle. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Just going to grab all of it. Some of it's going to fall out, and that's good. So when I'm on this side, I take my comb, I come from underneath so it doesn't fall out. And then my hands come under. And we're just going to connect. And then I might have to point cut a little bit. So we're just going to grab it. And we're just going to connect those. You can't even see what I'm doing. We're just going to connect that a little bit. Okay, so she is pretty textured at the end. Being a mannequin, she's already kind of fuzzy at the ends. So I'm not going to texturize her wet because she's already pretty fried looking at the bottom. So I'm going to take her and blow dry her. and show you the finished result. Okay, so here is our finished model. As you can see, she has a lot of face framing that kind of swooshes back away from her face. And a lot of that is kind of how I blew it out. I blew it out away from her face. If you wanted, you could blow that, round it out all under so that it all kind of sits tucked under her face. But this is how I finished it. It's very soft, very pretty. As you can see, it elongated her look. It didn't necessarily make it wider, like compared to our halo cut, where our halo cut got very wide here. This creates some volume, but it's also like it kind of draws your eye down to her length, which I think is so pretty. And this just sits so nice around her face. If you ever have someone in your chair who kind of wants that rounded scoop look in the back, or like that V cut, this is kind of the cut that I would go for, because what I'm going to do with her now is I'm going to go a little bit behind her ear, not right behind her ear where we would do our quad sectioning, but I'm going to go a little bit further from that. And I'm going to take that little bit forward, and I'm actually going to connect that to here, kind of build in more of that U shape. And I'm just going to kind of eyeball it right here. We can see where it connects. I'm just going to kind of U that out. Now, if she had shoulders, I would be doing this differently. She didn't have shoulders. So we're just going to kind of go in and connect it like this. Give her more of that U shape. And as I said before, she's pretty just organically texturized through her ends. I don't want to do a lot there because I don't want to over texturize her. But one thing I do want to make sure of is where we kind of stopped here in the back. I want to make sure that it's connected. So I'm going to go back through, and I'm just going to kind of look at my pie section again. I'm going to pull all this hair up all the way from the nape to see how disconnected it is. And it's not really, just a couple. I'm going to go in and I'm going to point cut notches. I'll get closer on that second one so you can see what that looks like. Just going to take this pie piece here, kind of eyeballing my section from before. We're going to pull all this up all the way from her nape. I feel like I'm going to have to slide her out. And you see that, you probably can't even see it. There's like one little disconnected hair. We're just going to take that off. One thing that I like to do is create notches in the hair. So instead of doing these like fine little bits of texture, I actually go in. I wish you could see better. I actually go in and kind of go at a pretty deep angle and create notches. Do you see that? How now she's got space in between? That's going to give her more movement. So now we're just going to do it to the other side really quick. Pulling all this up. And we're going to cut up that little baby disconnected. I'm going to go through and create notches. And what I might do in the front is I might pull this whole section forward. And flip it over. And just kind of clean up any little hairs. Doesn't really need a lot. We'll just double check this side. Pull this all forward. I'm going to go under. I'm going to flip that up. I can just kind of see any little hairs that need to be taken off, texture or whatever. All right, well, this concludes your pie section haircut. Again, this haircut acts to kind of give you round layers, but kind of more elongated versus building weight like our halo cut. It's really good for people who want that U shape in the back or that V shape in the back, that very just like mermaidy kind of looking haircut, this is a good go-to for that. Also, you can use the same sectioning as you'll see later on in our training, where you can do this for shag haircuts, wolf haircuts. This sectioning can be used for a lot of different things, and we'll go over that as we get through your training. The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to do this on a mannequin, and then you will be bringing in a model to do this haircut on a person, and we will go through it step by step together. All right, I'll see you at the next one.